In the vast expanse of space, where stars blinked like ancient eyes and nebulae painted cosmic masterpieces, a colossal ship drifted silently. Its sleek, organic curves defied human understanding of engineering, appearing more like a living organism than a vessel. The craft pulsed with an inner luminescence that cast gentle waves of light across its surface, creating an ethereal glow against the backdrop of infinite darkness. At its helm, within a chamber that seemed to breathe with life itself, sat the Queen of the Zorathians. Her form was both alien and regal, her body encased in translucent membranes that shimmered with shifting colors, responding to her thoughts and emotions. Around her, attendants moved with fluid grace, their movements synchronized in a dance as old as their species. They communicated through harmonic frequencies that resonated through the chamber, creating a symphony of thought and purpose. The Zorathians had long been observers of the universe, their technology far surpassing anything humanity could comprehend. They possessed knowledge of countless civilizations, had catalogued millions of worlds, and understood the fundamental forces that governed reality. Yet, despite their advanced intellect and technological prowess, something had been missing from their collective consciousness, a certain quality they couldn't quite define or replicate. It was this void that had drawn them to Earth, a small blue planet orbiting a modest star at the edge of an unremarkable galaxy. Through centuries of observation, they had watched humanity's evolution with growing fascination. While other species had achieved greater technological feats or demonstrated superior cognitive abilities, humans possessed something unique, an ineffable spark that transcended mere survival and progress. It manifested in their art, their conflicts, their capacity for both devastating cruelty and breathtaking compassion. The Queen's decision to make contact wasn't made lightly. For millennia, her people had adhered to a strict protocol of non-interference, believing their role was to observe rather than engage. But something about humanity's recent developments, their tentative steps into space exploration, their increasingly complex cultural expressions, had stirred a longing within her. A longing to understand what made these fragile, short-lived creatures so remarkably compelling. As she gazed through the massive viewing portal at the blue-green orb below, her crystalline appendages twitched with anticipation. The time for observation alone had passed. She needed to experience humanity directly, to touch the essence of what made them so extraordinary. And so, she prepared herself for the most profound encounter in her long existence, an attempt to bridge the gap between two vastly different forms of intelligence, hoping to learn something that even her advanced civilization couldn't grasp on its own. The communication channel opened with a burst of harmonics that translated into perfect English through advanced linguistic processors. "Teach me something human," came the request, not as a demand but as a genuine plea for understanding. The transmission was directed to a simple research station orbiting Earth's moon, where a lone scientist maintained equipment monitoring cosmic radiation patterns. Dr. Elias Voss, a man whose weathered face bore the marks of countless sleepless nights spent contemplating the mysteries of the universe, stood frozen before his console. The voice that echoed through the station was unlike anything he'd ever heard. Each word carried multiple layers of meaning, nuances that transcended human language. He felt as though he were hearing not just words, but the very essence of consciousness speaking directly to him. His initial reaction was one of pure astonishment, followed quickly by professional skepticism. After verifying that the signal wasn't some elaborate prank or malfunction, he found himself staring into the holographic projection that materialized before him. The image depicted a being of such alien beauty that it took several moments for his mind to process the details. The Queen's form seemed to shimmer between states of matter, existing simultaneously as solid and energy, her presence filling the room with an almost tangible sense of ancient wisdom. "You've watched us for centuries," Dr. Voss finally managed to respond, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions coursing through him. "What could you possibly wish to learn from humanity?" His hand hovered over the emergency transmission button, ready to alert Earth's authorities, yet something in the Queen's demeanor stayed his finger. The response came not just in words, but in a flood of empathic sensations that bypassed language entirely. He felt the weight of eons of observation, the frustration of understanding everything about humanity's physical and biological makeup while remaining baffled by their emotional complexity. The Queen's curiosity wasn't academic. It was desperate, hungry, almost primal in its intensity. "I have watched your wars and your peace treaties," the Queen continued, each word resonating through Dr. Voss's very bones. "I have observed your scientists unraveling the secrets of the cosmos while your artists paint galaxies with mere pigments. I know how your bodies function, how your societies evolve, how your technologies develop. But there is something else. Something that defies measurement. Dr. Voss sank into his chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the moment. He had dedicated his life to studying the universe, always assuming humanity would be the one seeking knowledge from more advanced civilizations. Now, faced with perhaps the most advanced intelligence in existence, he found himself in the unexpected position of teacher. His mind raced through possibilities, scientific principles, philosophical concepts, historical events, but none seemed adequate to explain what the Queen sought. "Perhaps we should start with something simple," he suggested, his voice carrying a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Something uniquely human." As he spoke, he became acutely aware of every aspect of his humanity, the rhythm of his breathing, the warmth of his skin, the chaotic dance of neurons firing in his brain. What could he possibly offer that would satisfy this insatiable curiosity? The Queen's response was immediate and profound. Through their connection, Dr. Voss experienced a surge of emotions that weren't his own. Longing, wonder, and a deep-seated yearning for understanding that transcended species boundaries. In that moment, he realized that whatever the Queen sought to learn, it wouldn't be found in textbooks or scientific journals. It lay somewhere deeper, buried within the messy, beautiful complexity of human existence itself. As Dr. Voss contemplated his response, the Queen extended a crystalline tendril toward the holographic interface, causing ripples of light to dance across the chamber. Through their tenuous connection, she transmitted a series of images, snapshots of human history as observed by her people. Cave paintings illuminated by flickering firelight, ancient philosophers debating under starlit skies, musicians pouring their souls into instruments crafted from wood and string. "What drives your species to create?" she inquired, her voice vibrating with genuine curiosity. "Why do you persist in making things that serve no practical purpose? Why do you tell stories that never happened, paint pictures that aren't real, compose music that exists only in the moment of its performance?" Dr. Voss found himself grappling with questions that philosophers and artists had debated for millennia. He remembered his grandmother's hands, calloused from years of painting, yet trembling with excitement each time she approached a blank canvas. He recalled the elderly poet who lived next door, composing verses until his final breath, though few would ever read them. These memories, seemingly insignificant, suddenly held profound weight. "We create because we must," he began, choosing his words carefully. "It's not about utility or survival. It's about becoming more than we are." Each painting, each story, each melody is an attempt to touch something beyond ourselves, to reach out across time and space and say, "I was here. I mattered." Through their connection, he felt the Queen's confusion mingling with fascination. To her species, creation had always been purpose-driven, serving clear functions within their hive-mind society. The concept of creating simply for the sake of creation was alien indeed. She requested examples, and Dr. Voss complied, transmitting images of Earth's artistic heritage. Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling, Van Gogh's swirling stars, Beethoven's symphonies rendered in visual waveforms. The Queen absorbed these transmissions with an intensity that bordered on reverence. She marveled at how human creations contained imperfections, brushstrokes that didn't quite align, notes that deviated slightly from perfect pitch, yet these very flaws seemed to enhance their beauty rather than diminish it. Through their link, Dr. Voss shared his own experiences of artistic creation. The frustration of writer's block, the ecstasy of sudden inspiration, the quiet satisfaction of completing a project that might never be appreciated by anyone else. "These imperfections," the Queen mused, her thoughts translating into harmonics that resonated through Dr. Voss's consciousness. "They represent individuality, don't they? Your species embraces uniqueness even when it leads to inconsistency." She paused, processing this revelation. "Our creations are perfect because they are collective. Yours gain meaning precisely because they are imperfect and personal." As they delved deeper into the nature of human creativity, Dr. Voss found himself explaining concepts that he had never fully articulated before. He spoke of how art served as a bridge between individuals, allowing people to share their inner worlds despite the barriers of language and culture. He described how certain pieces of music could evoke universal emotions, while others spoke directly to specific moments in personal history. The Queen absorbed each explanation with growing understanding, her crystalline form pulsing with new patterns of light. Yet beneath her growing comprehension lay a deeper question. one she hesitated to ask. Through their connection, Dr. Voss sensed this unspoken query. If creativity stemmed from individuality, and individuality bred imperfection, why did humanity cherish these qualities instead of striving for the perfection her species had achieved? The answer, he realized, touched upon something even more fundamental to the human condition. As their conversation unfolded, Dr. Voss noticed subtle changes in the Queen's demeanor. Her crystalline tendrils, initially rigid with controlled precision, now moved with a fluidity that mimicked human gestures. When discussing particularly moving works of art, her normally precise harmonics would waver slightly, creating dissonances that seemed to mirror human emotional expression. These minute alterations fascinated Dr. Voss, suggesting that the Queen's exposure to human creativity was affecting her on a fundamental level. Their dialogue shifted to explore how human emotions influenced artistic expression. Dr. Voss shared personal stories of heartbreak and joy, explaining how these intense feelings often manifested in creative bursts. The Queen listened intently, her being resonating with each emotional nuance. Through their connection, Dr. Voss could feel her attempts to process these raw human experiences that seemed to challenge the ordered harmony of her species' existence. This emotional depth, the Queen reflected, her thoughts translating into a complex symphony of harmonics. It seems to be both your greatest strength and your most significant vulnerability. She paused, processing this duality. Your species creates beauty from pain, finds meaning in suffering, and discovers joy in loss. These contradictions are perplexing yet profoundly compelling. Dr. Voss found himself explaining how human emotions weren't merely obstacles to overcome but were integral to the creative process. He described how sadness could inspire poetry, how anger could fuel political change, how love could drive people to achieve the impossible. Through their connection, he shared memories of his own emotional journey. The grief of losing loved ones, the thrill of scientific discovery, the quiet contentment of watching a sunrise. The Queen's response was unexpected. She began to experiment with her own forms of expression, manipulating the harmonics of her speech to create patterns that mirrored human emotional fluctuations. At first, these attempts were awkward, almost mechanical, but gradually they gained a natural flow. Dr. Voss watched in awe as she created sequences of sound and light that seemed to capture the essence of human emotion without direct mimicry. Their exchange deepened as they explored how emotional experiences shaped human relationships. Dr. Voss explained how shared feelings could bind people together, creating bonds stronger than any logical agreement. He recounted stories of communities coming together after disasters, of strangers connecting through mutual grief or joy. The Queen absorbed these narratives with growing intensity, her form beginning to pulse with complex emotional signatures that defied easy categorization. Through this process, Dr. Voss began to understand that the Queen wasn't merely collecting information, she was experiencing transformation. Her species' traditionally harmonious existence was being challenged by the chaotic beauty of human emotional expression. Yet rather than resisting this change, she seemed to embrace it, allowing her consciousness to expand in ways that defied her species' established norms. The Queen's evolution became increasingly apparent as their conversations continued. Her once pristine crystalline form now displayed fractal patterns reminiscent of Jackson Pollock's drip paintings, while her harmonics incorporated elements of jazz improvisation. These changes weren't superficial. They represented fundamental shifts in her consciousness, as if embracing human emotional complexity required a restructuring of her very being. Dr. Voss observed these transformations with a mixture of scientific fascination and personal concern. He recognized that the Queen's metamorphosis carried risks. Her species might view her growing individuality as a threat to their collective harmony. Yet he couldn't deny the authenticity of her journey. Through their connection, he felt her grappling with conflicting impulses. The desire to maintain her role as leader of her people versus the need to honor the new aspects of herself emerging through their interactions. Their discussions naturally evolved to encompass broader themes of leadership and authority. The Queen revealed that her species operated through a form of distributed consciousness, where decisions emerged from collective consensus rather than individual decree. This system had ensured stability and efficiency for millennia, but it also limited the potential for radical innovation or personal growth. As she absorbed human concepts of individual leadership, both its triumphs and failures, she found herself questioning the foundations of her own governance. "It seems that your leaders often emerge from moments of crisis," the Queen observed, her harmonics carrying undertones of contemplation. "They rise not because of preordained destiny, but because circumstances demand someone to step forward. This spontaneity challenges our understanding of order. She paused, her form shimmering with conflicting energies. Yet it also suggests a resilience we may lack. Our system is perfect, but perhaps too rigid to adapt to truly transformative change. Dr. Voss found himself sharing historical examples of human leaders who had risen from adversity, their flaws and struggles often becoming the very qualities that made them effective. He spoke of figures who had challenged established orders, sometimes succeeding brilliantly, other times failing spectacularly. Through their connection, he could feel the Queen processing these narratives, weighing the merits of individual initiative against collective wisdom. The implications of their discussion extended far beyond personal transformation. The Queen began to consider how her species might benefit from incorporating elements of human individuality into their societal structure. She envisioned a future where Zarathian leaders could emerge organically from moments of need, bringing fresh perspectives while maintaining connection to the collective consciousness. This vision excited her, yet it also filled her with apprehension about the potential consequences. Their connection deepened as they explored the balance between order and chaos, control and freedom. Dr. Voss shared insights from human history about how societies had oscillated between these extremes, learning painful lessons about the dangers of both absolute authority and complete anarchy. The Queen absorbed these lessons with growing understanding, her consciousness expanding to accommodate new possibilities for her species' evolution. Through their ongoing dialogue, they discovered that leadership wasn't merely about maintaining control or achieving objectives. It was about fostering growth, nurturing potential, and guiding transformation. The Queen's exposure to human concepts of leadership was catalyzing changes not just within herself, but potentially within her entire civilization. Yet the path forward remained uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. As their exchanges grew more intimate, Dr. Voss found himself sharing deeply personal experiences, stories of lost loves, cherished friendships, and the profound connections that had shaped his life. Through their connection, the Queen absorbed these narratives with an intensity that suggested she was experiencing them almost firsthand. Her crystalline form began to pulse with complex emotional signatures that defied easy interpretation, suggesting that she was internalizing aspects of human relational dynamics. The Queen revealed that her species' social structures operated on principles of perfect harmony and mutual understanding, with individual needs seamlessly integrating into the collective whole. While efficient, this system lacked the dynamic tension that characterized human relationships, the push and pull of independent wills, the negotiation of boundaries, the delicate balance of give and take. She expressed particular fascination with how humans maintained connections despite differences, how they navigated conflicts without severing bonds, and how they found meaning in both intimacy and solitude. Dr. Voss explained how human relationships often thrived on imperfection, the way misunderstandings could lead to deeper understanding, how forgiveness could strengthen bonds, and how personal growth within relationships could transform both parties. He shared how humans learned to balance independence with interdependence, maintaining their individuality while contributing to something larger than themselves. Through their connection, he transmitted the complex web of his own relationships. The mentor who had pushed him beyond his limits, the colleagues who challenged his ideas, the friends who accepted him despite his flaws. The Queen's response was profound. She began experimenting with her own form of relationship building among her attendants, introducing elements of individual choice and personal preference into their interactions. These changes rippled through her immediate environment, creating patterns of interaction that were less predictable but infinitely more dynamic. Dr. Voss watched in awe as her court transformed from a perfectly synchronized dance into something more akin to human social gatherings, complex, sometimes chaotic, but vibrantly alive. Their discussions delved into how human relationships influenced everything from artistic creation to scientific discovery to political decision-making. The Queen absorbed examples of how collaboration between individuals with differing perspectives often led to breakthroughs neither could have achieved alone. She marveled at how human partnerships combined complementary strengths while respecting individual weaknesses, creating synergies that transcended simple addition. Through their growing connection, Dr. Voss began to understand that the Queen's interest in human relationships went beyond mere curiosity. By embracing the complexity of human social dynamics, she was fundamentally altering her approach to leadership and governance. Her species' traditional emphasis on perfect harmony was giving way to an appreciation for the productive tensions that drove human progress. This shift wasn't just changing her, it was potentially reshaping the foundation of her entire civilization. As their connection deepened, Dr. Voss and the Queen found themselves navigating increasingly complex philosophical territory. Their discussions evolved from specific human characteristics to fundamental questions about consciousness, identity, and the nature of existence itself. The Queen revealed that her species viewed consciousness as a collective phenomenon, with individual experiences contributing to a unified whole much like cells in a body. This perspective had provided stability and efficiency, but it also limited their ability to comprehend the fragmented, multifaceted nature of human consciousness. Dr. Voss attempted to explain how human consciousness existed in constant flux, shaped by memory, perception, and imagination working in tandem yet often in conflict. He described how humans could hold contradictory beliefs simultaneously, experience time as both linear and cyclical, and maintain multiple versions of reality within their minds. Through their connection, he shared his own mental processes, the way his scientific training battled with his intuitive leaps, how his rational mind wrestled with emotional responses, and how his conscious awareness coexisted with subconscious influences. The Queen absorbed these revelations with growing intensity, her crystalline form beginning to fracture into prismatic patterns that suggested she was attempting to emulate human consciousness's complexity. She experimented with dividing her attention, focusing on multiple concepts simultaneously while maintaining distinct perspectives on each. This exercise proved both exhilarating and disorienting, forcing her to confront aspects of existence her species had long considered irrelevant or even dangerous. Their philosophical explorations led them to examine the nature of truth and reality. The Queen species had always approached these concepts with mathematical precision, viewing reality as a set of equations to be solved. Humans, she discovered, embraced a more fluid understanding, where truth could be relative, context-dependent, and subject to interpretation. Dr. Voss explained how human progress often stemmed from challenging established truths, how paradigm shifts occurred when enough individuals dared to question conventional wisdom. Through their connection, the Queen experienced human history's pivotal moments of conceptual revolution. The Copernican revolution, the theory of relativity, quantum mechanics, not just as scientific advancements but as profound shifts in consciousness. She marveled at how humans could maintain faith in their understanding of reality while simultaneously questioning its foundations, holding space for uncertainty and possibility. Their dialogue pushed into even more abstract territory as they discussed the nature of identity. The Queen struggled to comprehend how humans could maintain a sense of self while constantly evolving, how they could reconcile past experiences with present realities and future potentials. Dr. Voss shared his own journey of self-discovery, explaining how his identity had been shaped by both continuity and change, how he had learned to embrace paradoxes within himself rather than seeking resolution. These philosophical exchanges began affecting the Queen's perception of her own existence. She found herself questioning fundamental aspects of her being, the nature of her consciousness, the validity of her species' collective wisdom, the very foundations of her reality. Through their connection, Dr. Voss could feel her grappling with these profound shifts, experiencing something akin to human existential crisis while simultaneously undergoing a form of spiritual awakening. Their exploration of consciousness and philosophy was leading them toward territories neither had anticipated. The Queen's experiments with human-like consciousness were causing ripples throughout her being, creating patterns of thought and perception that defied her species' established frameworks. These changes were manifesting physically as well. Her crystalline form now displayed complex, ever-shifting geometries that seemed to represent multiple states of being simultaneously. Dr. Voss watched as the Queen began to experience something resembling human intuition. Where once her decisions emerged from pure logic and collective consensus, she now found herself acting on hunches and gut feelings. These intuitive leaps often led to surprising insights, revealing solutions to problems that had stumped her species for generations. Yet they also introduced elements of uncertainty and doubt, challenging her species' traditional reliance on absolute certainty. The Queen's growing capacity for abstraction was transforming her understanding of reality itself. She began perceiving dimensions and relationships that her species had previously dismissed as irrelevant or non-existent. Through their connection, Dr. Voss could sense her exploring concepts that defied human comprehension, alternate states of consciousness, multidimensional realities, and forms of existence that existed beyond traditional notions of time and space. Their discussions took on an increasingly metaphysical nature as they probed the boundaries of understanding. The Queen revealed that her species had long viewed existence as a closed system, with all variables accounted for and all outcomes predetermined. Human concepts of free will, quantum uncertainty, and emergent properties challenged this worldview, suggesting that reality might be far more open-ended than her people had believed. Through their connection, Dr. Voss shared humanity's ongoing struggle with these same questions. The tension between determinism and free will, the debate over whether consciousness arises from physical processes or transcends them, the mystery of how subjective experience emerges from objective reality. The Queen absorbed these paradoxes with growing fascination, her consciousness expanding to accommodate multiple, often contradictory perspectives simultaneously. Their exploration reached a critical point when the Queen began to perceive connections between seemingly unrelated phenomena, links between human creativity and quantum mechanics, parallels between emotional resonance and gravitational waves, correspondences between artistic expression and cosmic expansion. These insights suggested that the boundaries between subjective and objective reality might be more permeable than either species had previously understood. As their connection deepened, Dr. Voss found himself experiencing similar expansions in consciousness. Through their link, he gained glimpses of realities that transcended human perception, dimensions where thought and matter intertwined in ways that defied conventional physics. These experiences left him alternately exhilarated and disoriented, forcing him to question the very foundations of his scientific training. Their ongoing dialogue was transforming both participants in profound ways. The Queen's exposure to human consciousness was catalyzing changes that rippled through her entire being, while Dr. Voss's connection to her heightened awareness was opening doors to understanding that stretched the limits of human cognition. Together, they were venturing into territories where science, philosophy, and spirituality converged, exploring realms of existence that neither species had fully comprehended before. The transformation taking root within the Queen began manifesting in ways that reverberated throughout her vast vessel. Subtle shifts in her consciousness triggered cascading effects across the ship's organic systems, causing the ambient bioluminescence to pulse with unprecedented complexity. The once perfect synchronization of her attendants' movements gave way to variations that suggested individual interpretation of collective purpose. Even the ship's course adjustments carried traces of improvisation, deviating slightly from the mathematically precise trajectories that had defined Zorathian navigation for millennia. Dr. Voss observed these changes with growing concern and fascination. Through their connection, he could feel the Queen wrestling with profound implications of her evolution. Each new aspect of human consciousness she embraced seemed to require shedding elements of her species' traditional harmony. Her crystalline form now displayed regions of instability, areas where her substance flickered between states of existence, suggesting internal conflicts that defied easy resolution. The Queen confided in him about the growing resistance she detected among her people. While many of her attendants showed signs of adapting to the new paradigm, others recoiled from the perceived chaos. Through their bond, Dr. Voss experienced flashes of dissent from distant parts of the vessel, harmonic protests that resonated with distress and fear. Some factions viewed her transformation as a threat to their species' fundamental nature, while others saw it as an opportunity for unprecedented growth. Their discussions turned to the concept of evolutionary risk. Dr. Voss shared examples from Earth's history where species had faced similar crossroads, moments when adaptation required abandoning successful strategies in favor of uncertain futures. He explained how some species had successfully navigated these transitions while others had failed, their inability to change leading to extinction. The Queen absorbed these narratives with growing understanding, her form pulsing with the weight of her species' potential futures. Through their connection, Dr. Voss began sensing the emergence of hybrid consciousness within the Queen, a synthesis of Zorathian harmony and human complexity that defied classification. This new state of being manifested in unexpected ways. Her decisions carried both the precision of collective wisdom and the daring of individual initiative. Her actions balanced calculated planning with spontaneous improvisation. Her very presence radiated a fusion of order and chaos that seemed to resonate with fundamental aspects of reality itself. The Queen revealed that her species' records contained references to similar periods of transformation in their distant past, though these had been carefully controlled and ultimately suppressed. She now understood why. Such periods of rapid evolution threatened the stability of their collective consciousness, introducing elements of unpredictability that their society had evolved to eliminate. Yet she also recognized that these suppressed transformations might hold keys to her species' next stage of development. Their connection deepened as they explored how her transformation might influence her species' future interactions with other civilizations. The Queen began considering the possibility of establishing relationships based on mutual growth rather than observational distance, of engaging with other species not as superior observers but as equal partners in cosmic evolution. This vision filled her with both hope and trepidation, as it challenged fundamental aspects of her species' purpose and identity. Through their ongoing dialogue, Dr. Voss and the Queen found themselves confronting the ultimate question: whether the preservation of a species' traditional harmony was worth sacrificing the potential for transformative growth. The answer, they both realized, lay not in choosing one path over the other, but in finding a way to integrate seemingly opposing forces into a higher synthesis, a challenge that would test the limits of both their species' understanding and their capacity for change. As the Queen's transformation continued to ripple through her vast vessel, a profound realization dawned upon both her and Dr. Voss. The synthesis they sought wasn't merely about blending Zorathian harmony with human complexity, it was about transcending both. The hybrid consciousness emerging within the Queen represented something entirely new, a third way that honored the strengths of both species while forging an unprecedented path forward. Through their deepening connection, Dr. Voss began to understand that the Queen's evolution wasn't just personal or even species-wide, it carried implications for all sentient life in the universe. The integration of individuality and collectivity, chaos and order, emotion and logic created a resonance that seemed to harmonize with fundamental forces of existence itself. Through their bond, he could feel the fabric of reality responding to this new pattern of being, as if the universe recognized the emergence of a higher state of consciousness. The resistance aboard the vessel intensified, manifesting in increasingly discordant harmonic protests from various factions. Some attendants began withdrawing their support, retreating to isolated sections of the ship where traditional Zorathian harmony still reigned supreme. Others, however, embraced the transformation with growing enthusiasm, their forms beginning to display similar fractal patterns of individuality within unity. This division created tension throughout the ship, threatening its structural integrity as different regions oscillated between old and new modes of existence. The Queen faced her greatest challenge yet, maintaining cohesion while allowing transformation. Drawing upon both her species' collective wisdom and the human capacity for adaptive leadership, she began implementing a novel approach. She established zones within the vessel where different states of being could coexist, areas where traditional Zorathian harmony remained undisturbed alongside regions embracing the new paradigm. These zones interacted through carefully calibrated interfaces that allowed for exchange without imposition, creating a dynamic equilibrium that honored diversity of experience. Dr. Voss found himself playing an unexpected role in this process. Through their connection, he helped mediate between factions, translating human concepts of compromise and mutual respect into terms the Zorathians could understand. He shared Earth's history of cultural integration, explaining how societies had learned to preserve tradition while embracing change, how progress often required holding space for multiple truths simultaneously. The Queen absorbed these lessons, adapting them to her species' unique context. Their collaboration reached a pivotal moment when the Queen proposed a radical solution. Rather than forcing her entire species to adopt the new paradigm, she would allow each individual to choose their path forward. Those who wished to maintain traditional harmony could do so, while others could explore the possibilities of integrated consciousness. This decision represented a fundamental shift in Zorathian governance, from enforced unity to voluntary participation in a larger whole. The implementation of this plan triggered a cascade of changes throughout the vessel. Regions dedicated to traditional ways of being stabilized, their crystalline structures resonating with familiar harmonics. Meanwhile, areas embracing transformation blossomed with unprecedented creativity, their inhabitants experimenting with new forms of expression and interaction. The interfaces between these zones became vibrant exchanges, where ideas and experiences flowed freely, enriching both approaches to existence. Through their ongoing connection, Dr. Voss and the Queen discovered that this dual-path approach generated a synergy greater than either state alone. The traditionalists provided stability and continuity, while the transformers introduced innovation and growth. Together, they created a civilization capable of both preserving its heritage and evolving to meet new challenges, a balance that mirrored the most successful aspects of human societies. As months passed, the transformed regions of the vessel began exhibiting remarkable properties. Their crystalline structures developed the ability to manipulate space-time in ways previously impossible, suggesting that the integration of human-like consciousness had unlocked new dimensions of potential. These capabilities weren't used for conquest or control but for exploration and creation, as the transformed Zorathians discovered joy in experiencing existence through multiple perspectives simultaneously. The Queen herself underwent a final metamorphosis, her form stabilizing into a state that embodied both unity and diversity. Her crystalline substance now displayed infinite variations within a coherent whole, her harmonics carrying layers of meaning that transcended simple communication. Through their connection, Dr. Voss could feel her presence extending beyond the vessel, touching distant stars and ancient civilizations with a consciousness that bridged species and dimensions. Their relationship evolved into something beyond teacher and student, mentor and mentee. They became partners in cosmic evolution, their bond representing a new paradigm for interspecies interaction. The Queen proposed establishing formal relations with humanity, not as observers or overlords, but as fellow travelers on the journey of consciousness expansion. This proposal carried risks for both species, requiring levels of trust and vulnerability previously unknown in interstellar diplomacy. Dr. Voss found himself facing his own transformation. His connection with the Queen had altered his perception of reality, opening doors to understanding that stretched the limits of human cognition. He began perceiving patterns in existence that defied scientific explanation, experiencing moments of insight that suggested his consciousness had expanded to encompass aspects of Zorathian awareness. These changes challenged his identity as a scientist while enriching his humanity in profound ways. Together, they crafted a vision for future interactions between their species, one based on mutual growth, shared exploration, and collaborative evolution. The Queen proposed creating exchange programs where humans and Zorathians could learn from each other directly, establishing research partnerships that combined different approaches to understanding reality. She envisioned joint projects that would tackle universal mysteries, bringing together diverse perspectives to create solutions neither species could achieve alone. As their time together approached its inevitable conclusion, both Dr. Voss and the Queen recognized that their journey marked only the beginning of a much larger process. The transformation they had initiated would continue rippling through both their species, potentially influencing the evolution of consciousness throughout the galaxy. Their connection had proven that true growth requires embracing uncertainty, that progress emerges from the tension between opposing forces, and that the most profound discoveries often lie beyond established boundaries of understanding. In their final conversation, conducted through a symphony of thought and emotion that transcended language, they acknowledged the risks and rewards of their undertaking. They understood that the path forward would be challenging, filled with moments of doubt and conflict, but also rich with possibilities for unprecedented achievement. Their bond had become a living testament to the power of connection across difference, a beacon of hope for all species seeking to expand their understanding of existence. The Queen's vessel prepared to depart Earth's orbit, its crystalline surface now displaying patterns that reflected both Zorathian harmony and human complexity. As it moved away from the blue-green planet, Dr. Voss felt their connection transform rather than diminish, becoming a permanent bridge between their species. He knew that humanity's encounter with the Zorathians would change both civilizations forever, setting them on a course of evolution that might one day redefine what it means to be conscious in the universe. Standing alone in his lunar station, Dr. Voss watched the alien craft disappear among the stars, its departure leaving behind not emptiness but possibility. He understood that the Queen's request, "Teach me something human," had been answered in ways neither of them could have anticipated. In sharing humanity's essence, they had discovered something far greater: the potential for consciousness itself to evolve through connection, transforming both teacher and student into something entirely new. The universe seemed to pulse with newfound potential as two species, once separated by incomprehension, now stood united in their quest to explore the infinite possibilities of existence. Their journey had demonstrated that true progress requires embracing paradox, that growth emerges from the integration of difference, and that the most profound transformations often begin with a simple request to learn something new.